You know, unfortunately with climate change, we're seeing increased frequency and size and severity of wildfire, especially in the West, but really around the world.
Just over the weekend, the 416 fire tripled in size. Residents who live in Hermosa say it was a scary sight.
We knew this was coming. We'd have a low snowpack the year before. We were in drought conditions.
416 fire is far and away the largest. It has burned 22,000 acres and it's only 10% contained.
Soil moisture was low, fuels were drying out. We kind of were fearful that a fire may start. And so I think our first impression was, I wonder how big it's going to get. Where is it going? What's its trajectory? And as we kind of made our way back around detours to get back to Durango, we started watching, from the Forest Service, giving their updates on the fire's progress and watching it move kind of west and south to the Hermosa Creek drainage. I specialize in studying rivers and lakes and how they are impacted by disturbance on the landscape, and whether that be legacy of mining or human disturbance such as agriculture, urbanization, or forest fire. And I'm positive this one's on the lower reach. We basically jumped into action as soon as we could. Of course, the burn area was closed to the public for good reason, for safety reasons, for quite a while after the fire. So it was almost a full year before we could actually get in and see the burn area. However, in just the month following the fire, almost before it was even fully contained, we got some monsoonal storm events, even a tropical storm remnant that came through and delivered some pretty strong rainfall on the recently burned area and caused some debris flows and mudslides down into the creek and washed down Hermosa Creek and then entered the Animas River here north of Durango. What were the impacts to bug communities? How long would they last and how persistent would they go downstream? And so we set up a series of monitoring locations based on sites where we were already monitoring even before the fire, ranging from within the burn area in Hermosa Creek, down Hermosa Creek itself and into the Animas and down through Durango. And really what we saw in terms of water quality and aquatic life was with water quality, we saw elevated metals after the fire during those storm events, elevated nutrients, high turbidity, a lot of suspended sediment moving down. And in terms of bugs, they were responding to those shifts in habitat and shifts in water quality by a total shift in community composition. Whereas, sites that were typically predominantly made up of mayflies and caddisflies and a handful of stoneflies shifted to a community dominated by chironomid midges, much more tolerant of disturbance and highly sedimented environments.
I like visualizing the bugs, and I think she did a cool job of drawing the actual stonefly.
It's just fascinating that these little animals with all these different diverse adaptations to different habitats can live in a river, a stream, or a lake. And I think what's really interesting from a scientific disturbance level of interest is that some of the aquatic insects are more susceptible to disturbance than others, and they can really be excellent indicators of changes on the landscape. So that's really what kind of excites me about bugs, is they're telling you a story and all you got to do is ask. We're kind of realizing across our community and across the public that fire is a necessary component of the landscape. We need for it to be there. The forests are dependent on it. Really, our rivers are dependent on it. And I'm hopeful that we'll be less reluctant in the future to see fire on the landscape at the frequency and intervals that are necessary to have resilient ecosystems. That's why I like working for Mountain Studies Institute. We're trying to put knowledge in the hands of decision makers and people who can make impacts on the landscape and helping them be best informed. And that's, really well suited for fire management in our forests.